Welcome to What CEOs Talk About. Do you wonder what CEOs talk about behind closed doors? How they bring their vision to reality? How do they overcome and succeed through adversity? We share that and so much more with each episode. Now, let's get started with the show.
Good day, everybody. My name is Martin Hunter. I am the host of What CEOs Talk About. Today, we've got a prize guest. So I think we're going to have a lot of fun. She's uber creative. Tanya Janca, thank you very much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me on, Martin.
A soft voice, don't get confused. I'm sure that we're going to riff and have a lot of fun. So Tanya, tell us, what's the name of your company and what do you do for a living?
My company is named SheHacksPurple. And we create security training that is for software developers and people that build huge IT systems.
Thank you very much. And how long have you been in business?
So we have been in business technically since March 2020. So basically the absolute worst time for someone to go into business. That's when I started. And it, despite all odds, it has gone actually really well.
You don't want COVID to go away. I was like, I'm doing fine. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Oh, that's funny. It's funny. I shouldn't say it's funny because we got caught up into the same vector. I lost. Urgio, our company, lost maybe 30% upfront. I got kind of scared, right? And then all of a sudden it went 30, 60, 90 increase. Hey, can you help us? Can you help us? We're in transition. We're leveling up. Our business is booming. We need your assistance. Can you? It's, and I have not taken time off, so I need to take time off. Anyways, what is the? I'm giggling because I know what's coming. What's the title of the show today, Tanya?
The title of the show is Alice, Bob, and SheHacksPurple.
So for those who are listening and not watching, SheHacksPurple. Tanya put a big smile, put the fingers up to her dimples. And so please explain, because everybody's, I don't know, maybe we should just explain right at the end, just to keep the, keep the suspense going throughout the podcast. So tell us, because I learned a whole bunch. So Alice and Bob and SheHacksPurple.
Okay, so I wrote a book called Alice and Bob Learn Application Security. And that's what I'm an expert in, is the security of software. And the thing is way, way long ago, when security people invented encryption, mathematicians, like these super geniuses, were like, how do we explain to the normals what encryption is?
To the little people.
And yeah, so they literally came up with these two characters named Alice and Bob. And it's like, well, Alice wants to tell Bob a secret. How can she tell him the secret and make sure no one else hears it? Well, Bob receives the secret, but how does he know the secret's from Alice? And so they used those two characters over and over again to explain how this extremely very complex stuff works. And so as time progressed, so that actually came out right around when I was born. So around like 43 years ago.
43.
And
So Alice and Bob are the Adam and Eve of cybersecurity.
Yes, they are. And actually Eve comes into the story eventually. But,
oh my goodness.
I know, right? And so as like security and the cybersecurity industry progressed and people were giving examples and explaining things, they started using the characters of Alice and Bob because everyone knew them. And so I started giving conference talks and writing blog posts. And I would just say, it's not Alice that's wrong or Bob that screwed up. It's a safeguard that's missing or a system or a policy that was circumvented. And so I started just using them over and over again as examples. And when they said, what do you want to name your book? I had already planned to put tons of Alice and Bob examples throughout the book. And I was thinking of naming it the Application Security Handbook or Alice and Bob Learn. And they're like, that is the cutest title of all time. And we don't know how to say this nicely, but you're just sort of adorable with the way that you explain like serious security things, but in a gentle way.
And you show your book?
And they're
Do you
like,
have your book? Show your book. Show your book. Do I have
and so, of course, this is the prettiest security book of all time. Yeah, it's purple and pink. And yeah, I'm going to have to think of a color scheme for the next one. because you can't have all the books be the same color.
So
but
it's going to be
purple is
what, a
my
trilogy?
favorite.
A trilogy?
At least. So Alice and Bob next are going to learn secure coding. And then they're probably going to learn something called DevSecOps. And then I'm not sure from there. I need to do those books and continue on.
You're taking me back to my military days. Psychops. I mean, that's... Don't be fooled by the smile of Tanya. She is wicked. Hey, takes a crook to know a crook, right? So if you're cybersecurity, you know, so I learned through our conversation with both Keith and Michael, that there's some white hackers, some gray hackers, and some black hackers, kind of like sorcerers, like white magic and black magic. So, you know, if you got the power, you can be good or you can be bad. Thank you, Tanya, for choosing to be good.
Yeah, you have to talk about the hat. So it's like white hat hacker.
Oh, white
gray
hat hacker. Oh.
It sounds weird, but like the idea is that anyone could put on a black hat and become evil if they wanted to, as opposed to like the person themselves. It's like they've decided that they're gonna do this bad thing. I know it's weird, but
I was envisioning spy versus spy, right? There's the white spy and there's the black spy, like black colored spies there. Oh, wow. Black hat and white hat. Thank you very much for clarifying. Yeah. All right. So take us back 43 years ago in... So tell us your story. No, because I think there's more than just cybersecurity to your story. So please, I'd love to know more.
I think that I had like a super not average experience for young girls where both my aunts were computer scientists and my dad was a technologist, and then 3 of my 5 uncles are computer scientists. And then my 2 older cousins, one's a mechanical engineer PhD and the other one is a chemist computer scientist, and then my mom's a mathematician chemist. And so then me, like the next oldest one in the family, I was like, I think I want to study computer science. And they're all looking at me like, yeah, what else would you do, Tanya? But I was like, this is my amazing idea of stuff I'm good at that I think I'll really like.
Oh, I can just imagine family gatherings at your place, the theories and the conversations. The most common people go, what? What? How about those Blue Jays? No. That is so cool.
Yeah, so the moment I was like legally allowed to do so, I got a job at a tech company and I was so excited. And then I started college and I worked at a startup. And then as soon as I graduated, I started my first company and it failed very quickly. So I think the DevOps people would be proud of me. Fail fast if you're going to fail.
That's what I say all the time. Get it on the road, get it out on the road. Boom, 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 boom. All right. You missed the curve. That's okay. Fail fast. Good. So, okay. So you started your first company. Why did you fail?
So that was my first technology company. So I was also a musician. So this is going to sound very weird, but I would work at a startup part-time, and then I did computer science, and then I would play music in bars at night and sing songs to everyone, play my guitar, and that helped me pay all my rent throughout all of my 4 years of college.
So you're good at guitar too?
Yeah, I play guitar, drums, and I sing, and I briefly did comedy too. Yeah, but mostly I was a folk singer for a really long time. And I have, so if you look me up on Spotify, that's me, but then I'm under a lot of other names as well on all the whatevers. Yeah.
So I'm kind of throwing things out there. Are we using this both sides of the brain for math, technology, and music, or is it different side of the brain? What are your thoughts?
No, music is, especially songwriting specifically, is very, very closely intertwined with writing software. It's all of like the same type of circuit. So like when you write a song, there's a formula that kind of goes to it, and the way that the musical notes go and stuff. I don't know how to explain it, but there's a huge, huge overlap between people that write software and write music. It's very, very common.
Okay. Yeah. So I always tell people, if you were to hold a gun against my head and play a tune, I'd say shoot yourself first because your ears are going to bleed. Okay. I love music. I think there's nobody that has a repertoire. I can guess a song probably within the first 2 seconds. Like I am You ask me to hold a tune or keep the beat, just keep the beat, and I just cannot do it. But now you want me to write procedures? You want me to remember SOPs? You want me to fly plane? No problem. But I can't write to save. I am dyslexic as well, so I don't know if that's a
Oh,
component
I'm
as well.
actually dyslexic as well, and I found it extremely difficult to learn to play guitar and extremely difficult to learn to sing. But then it's so weird. So then when I was 34, I
Mhm.
decided I wanted to take up drumming because apparently that's when you decide you want to take up drumming
Of
after
course.
you've already worked in music professionally, like 13 years. Um, I know, right? But I was just like, I was just with my band. We're just jamming. And then I was like, hey, want to switch seats just as like a joke
Mhm.
because the drummer was learning to play guitar. I'm like, do you want to play my guitar? So I just sat in his seat and I just started drumming. And then before you know it, I was drumming like an hour and a half. I was like, this was so fun. And he's like, you don't suck. Like, that's the first time. And so then I took a couple drum lessons and then all of a sudden I was in a band and I was like singing and drumming and telling jokes. I'll
So are you saying that there's a future for me?
Yes, of course there is. Drums are very different than
Mhm.
playing a musical instrument,
It's the
and
heartbeat of the
singing
song.
is different too because it's more physical.
Yeah, drumming, you have to, you're the engine of the band. Like everybody goes to
Yeah.
your beat. Everybody counts on you.
Yeah.
So if you screw up, yeah. And singing, oh my goodness, I knew and know singers, and the energy, like it's a whole core, their diaphragm, their stomach, their liver, their throat. This it
Oh
is a
yeah.
full body engagement when you're singing.
Oh
I
yeah.
Wow, we went
It's
sideways on this one.
wonderful.
So, same side brain between writing security code and writing music. So, you're 34 years old, you've learned how to drum, you've started your first business, you failed your own business, you're playing drums, you're playing music to keep up and pay the bills. Where are we at now? 35.
So I yeah, so I'd been a software developer for a while, and that's actually right around when I switched to security.
Okay.
So so while I was in so I've been in a zillion bands, but
Mm-hmm.
there was a penetration tester that worked at my office, so like an
Mm-hmm.
ethical hacking guy.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to his desk one day and I was like, hey. He's like, hey. And I'm like, I'm in a band and you're in a band. And he's like, yeah. And I
Yeah.
said, my band wrote a song called Mandatory Dance Party. And because our band did like comedy, we'd play in comedy
Okay.
clubs and rock clubs.
Okay.
And I was like, and we want to have, so we had a bunch of songs called, anyway, very silly songs about dancing. And I was like, I want to make this mobile app where if both people have the app installed and then they become like close enough together, it starts making this noise and there's like this countdown. And then they have to have a mandatory dance battle where they both and I want to use the how the app like the phone will move around,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like whoever's phone moves the most is going to win the battle, and then it just turns off and the app is done. And he's like, oh my god, I want to be a
I
part of this. I'm like, let's be
yeah.
friends.
I want to be part of it. Is it done? Is it done? Oh man. That's so cool.
So then he convinced me that I should become a penetration tester. He's like, you've been developing software for 5,000 years. I was like 17, it's not that long.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, you should switch. You should switch. You'd be so good at it. You're really smart and you love puzzles. And so that's what it is. And so he became my professional mentor. And for like a year, he mentored me. He got me my first job. And then I remember so he gave me like contracts, but then when I went for a full-time job, I remember him actually telling the hiring manager, I'm not coming unless Tanya comes. And he is really well known in our city. And he's like, I have lots of contracts. I don't need this one. I'm only coming if you hire Tanya. And the guy's like, she has like no experience. He's like, she has 12 zillion years dev experience and she has 1 year under me. And trust me, she's gonna impress you. And it worked out really well. And so they
Wow.
hired me. But then eventually I figured out that breaking things, although it's fun, my magical thing that I'm the best at is being between the devs and the security people and kind of like helping the devs make their stuff secure. So like
Mm-hmm.
teaching them or giving them some tools or like there's all these different kind of processes that you can do to
Mm-hmm.
kind of help assist them all along the way. So by the end, their code is not only like really awesome and the client's all happy, but it's like rock solid and super secure. And so it turned out That's what I like the best. And so my mentor and I bid each other adieu, if that makes sense. And I found new mentors that taught me about application security. So that magical spot kind of in between. It sounds weird, but like I still get to smash things, but I concentrate a lot more on showing them. So this is what I did, and this is how you can make sure that never happens again on every single app we have. And yeah, it turns out I just like hanging out with devs, and and so it worked out perfectly. And then I wanted to learn everything about this, right? And it's really expensive to go to conferences. I'm not sure if you know this, but I think most people know like tickets get expensive, and the training and security is even more expensive than in regular software development. So I figured out a trick. So if you apply to speak at a conference and you get in, you get a free ticket. And so I started applying at every conference I wanted to go to, and I was like, maybe I'll get into one. I got into 10 the first year, and I was like,
Oh no, shit.
yeah, so I just started, and so I wrote some of them, and I'm like, well, I don't have enough money, and they're like, well, we'll mail you a plane ticket. And so then I started just getting plane tickets like all the time, and I was in Vienna, and I'm in Switzerland, and I'm here, and I'm there, and I was like, I can't believe this is real. And because of all my musical acting experience and like performing experience, I guess when I'm on stage, I'm really lively and really excited. And because I'm dyslexic and I had some trouble like teaching myself how I learn, I tend to explain things in like 4 different ways. Like I'm like, here's a picture and here's me telling you about it. And then here's some text that explains it. And then here's some code. And so it turns out I'm really good at taking very complex things and kind of breaking them down into digestible pieces and then telling dad jokes at the same time. Because that's important, right?
So you and I are aligned. I mean, I never thought about that. That's the one thing that I do best is, I translate strategy into frontline operations. How do you monetize somebody's idea, right? And I always say, great, wow, you got this great vision. I want to do this. Okay, how do you get paid for it? All right, let's go down. So let's connect the dots, and you kind of go, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2 process, and then what's the steps? What's a definition of done? You're an agile, you're a Scrum. I'm sure that you understand the agile framework and Scrum Master. So what's the definition of done? Where's your backlist, your backlog issues, and the business is very similar. There's too many systems, but if you sprint at something, that's the beauty of the agile system. You sprint at fixing something quickly. And so you apply that process. So cool. So now I know why I'm good at storytelling, because now we've shared dyslexia is a key component between both of us. And we're able to take something very complex because, English and writing and just when I read my boy bedtime stories, well, not bedtime stories, but graphic novels like cartoons, he's like, Dad, can you speed up? Like he reads faster than I do because I cannot, for the sake of me, read the bubbles. I was just like, physically cannot do it. He's like, are you tired? I said, no. I'm like, that's what I can't do.
That's the deal. That's what you get, yo. Parents aren't perfect. They just try really hard.
Exactly. So our job is to screw your life up. But anyways, give them the tools, right? So let's talk about developers, training developers. So have you trained other people than just devs?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So SheHacksPurple basically when I started it. So I started working for Microsoft. I was traveling around the world and teaching and speaking, and I left them to start a product company. And unfortunately, me and my co-founder within a few weeks realized that all of the things we had previously discussed, when we're actually doing it, it was not the same. And we decided to part ways where we could still be friends. Because it's hard when you actually go to do the thing and it's like, oh, I thought you meant this. Oh, I thought you meant that. And no way, Jose, etc. And so it's good. We could peacefully separate. And so then I was like, I'm not sure what I'm going to do next. And someone wrote me and said, can I pay you to just come in and train my devs? And I was like, sure. And someone else said, can I pay you to come in and kind of develop an application security program? So what that means is, so you know how like someone will do like agile development or they'll do DevOps or whatever. And it's all the security components that go along with that to support the devs, not to scare them, or provide like gates. The idea is to provide support the whole way through. And I was like, yeah, that sounds awesome. That's like my favorite thing. And so then I kind of came up with training material around that for when I would go in. And I had a friend that's good at shooting video, and I said, let's just try shooting a course and see if anyone buys it. And then we sold 100 in like the first couple weeks, like almost immediately. I was like, oh, that went really well. What if we, build it out into like a big formal, really beautiful program and like reshoot it in like, 4K and make it look beautiful and like up the professionalism and quality. And so we did that, and then that sold a lot. And then we released a secure coding course, and we are right now working on an Azure security course. So Azure is one of the big clouds. And so since I used to be the Azure security representative for Microsoft, I really, really know Azure. And everyone's like, what is taking you so long to make an Azure course, Tanya? We want it now. So we actually started filming that this week.
Oh, nice. Nice.
Yeah.
Is our Alice and Bob starring?
So Alice and Bob are not going to learn Azure probably for a while. The one problem, so Azure's wonderful. I love Azure. But they tend to change the interface around. And so that is part of the reason why we hadn't filmed a course until now. And because they keep changing the interface, that means you have to update and reshoot videos often. And so if I put it into a book, by the time we were done the editing, it would be out of date. And so Alice and Bob might learn cloud security, but they're probably not going to learn like super specific Azure things because, like, to be clear, I'm not trying to insult anyone. All my friends at Microsoft still totally rule, but it's really hard to put stuff into print. Like, I know someone else that wrote an Azure security book, and his book's awesome, but he's like, it was out of date before it printed. Like, it's just so frustrating. And so I want to write things that I want someone to still like the book in 4 years.
It's true.
And have,
Well, it has
still
to be
find
applicable,
value.
right? So,
Yeah.
I mean, for me, the one piece of reference that has stayed with me my entire life is the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. For me, that when I left the military, I was like, okay, what can I do? Everybody's talking back then is like continuous improvement or personal development and stuff like that. It wasn't too hot as it is now. So 7 Habits, Stephen Covey. And then I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool. It applies to so many different things. So still to this day, first things first, right? That's for me, that there's something of constantly reprioritizing. And as you know, the world is changing and changing even faster. So if you don't know how to reprioritize on, I shouldn't say on an hourly basis, but on a daily basis, then you're hooped. So it's so great. I agree with you. But the book is timeless. That's the point that I wanted to make, is if you print something that is referring to something that changes continuously, you have to refer to the change and not the specific that changes continuously. So that I've fully Alice and Bob are going to miss out at least on $1 million, at least on $1 million. You're an awful producer.
I actually have I actually have a podcast for Alice and Bob. So once a month for all of 2021. So they were like, so my publishers, Wiley, they're awesome, but they're like, you're allowed, 250 pages, and the book's 249 pages. But I had so much more to say, right?
Yeah.
And so for each chapter, every month of 2021, I'm meeting online for a live stream with several of my super famous friends. And then we discuss all of the questions at the back of the book, and we discuss different concepts within the book to try to help explain them more fully. So for instance, 2 months ago, we talked about, how to design things securely. And one of the topics within that is threat modeling. So I had Adam Shostak on, who's like basically the inventor of threat modeling and wrote the threat modeling book. And he's like the guy, right? And he's so humble. And then I had a bunch of other threat modelers on, and we all discussed, like, how do you start? You don't have to be perfect. Like, how can you help people the most in one day, etc. And so each month we're doing that, and then it's in an audio only and video format that people can just consume forever. And so ideally, when I write the next book, we'll just pick that back up and just keep having this once a month kind of touch base free lessons that
What's
go
the
with it
podcast called?
because it's called Alice and Bob Learn.
Oh, there you go,
Yep.
listeners. People who are watching right after this podcast, you know exactly where you're going.
Can I tell them about my other podcast too?
Of
Because
course,
I'm ridiculous and I have
absolutely.
two.
No, really. What else do you do, Tanya? Like, hold on a second. Guitar, drums, you sing. What other instrument do you play?
So those are the three. But I also have a hobby farm where I farm vegetables.
Do you sleep?
And I'm trying to grow fruit, but it's harder than you think.
Do you sleep? Do you sleep?
I do. Yeah, I sleep a lot, but I don't really watch TV that much. So
No,
I
I
think
don't.
that's part of the...
Yeah, I don't watch TV either.
I totally watched TV last month once. But like, I do it sometimes. That's a thing people do. I watch TV with my bonus kids.
Your bonus kids?
Yeah, so I think it sounds nicer than step kids.
Oh.
It's like an awesome bonus in my life.
Yeah, I just call them kids.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, they have introduced me to this show called She-Ra, and I sing the theme song to them, and we all dance around to the She-Ra song and celebrate her strength and friendship and stuff.
Damn.
It's actually really fun.
Damn.
It's so fun.
I like to watch shows. We binge, Tracy and I, my wife. So we'll sit down on a weekend on a Saturday night, and then we'll watch 2 or 3 shows. And then I say, okay, we're good. And then it's like 2 or 3 weeks after, it was like, okay, you want to do that TV thing again? Yeah. Put the kids to bed.
Yeah.
And I'm a Ted Lasso. It's on Apple TV. It's coming out actually today. So for July 23rd. It's anyways, he's super humble, good. It's coaching, because I love coaching. I coach my kids on different sports, although I don't play field hockey. I've played rugby for most of my life, but field hockey, I love coaching kids. I love giving them a sense of purpose. I love being tough with them, saying, because life is not easy. So give them the right tools, give them the right mindset. It's okay to fail safely. This is the right place to do it. Forget about everybody who's watching. You're struggling, focus, just take your time. And so anyways, I love how you call them bonus kids. That's let's talk. You said something in the pre-show that really stuck with me. My daughter's probably going to be in a male dominated industry. Hence why I decided not to sit on the sidelines and participate in my daughter's success. And when I found out that most women still in this time are not paid the same as men, just drives me absolutely fucking insane. It drives me nuts. Color, race, religion, I don't care. You hire for skill, and you hire the person that fits best within attitude, skill, and knowledge, right? And so I infused myself with mining, because that's what I knew best, with women in mining, and help leverage or level out certain things. But I think, can you say to the people who are listening what you said? Because I think it's worth saying at least twice.
So I want to be known as a cybersecurity expert who is a woman, not a woman who is a cybersecurity expert.
I want you to say it again, because I think it is critical that you put the role and the skills and the expertise first. So please.
I want to be known as an internationally renowned application security expert who's a woman, not a woman in tech who happens to be an expert in this thing. I feel like a lot of times people will write me and they'll be like, hey, could you be on this woman in whatever panel? And it'll not have to do with my expertise. And I'm like, excuse me? No. I got asked to do a thing on burnout the other day. And I'm like, why would I be an expert in that unless you're telling me I suck at handling burnout, which might be true. But I'm like, why do you think I would talk on that topic? They're like, well, it's a women in talk panel about burnout. And I'm like, how about you tell me when there's a cloud security or application security or maybe DevOps? I'll talk about those things, but it's insulting that it's well, she has certain parts of her body and therefore she belongs, or she's got long hair. So it's just no, I really professionally want to be I want to be known for my profession. And actually, when we were shooting the videos, I remember so I had like a woman helping me. So, because I'm not really like do fancy makeup, I'm not great at that stuff. And so she was helping like kind of fuss me up and all of this. And the video guy was like, oh, well, why don't you wear that thing you were wearing earlier? I'm like, too much skin. And he was like, what do you mean? I'm like, I can't show very much skin. I have to wear, like, dress very, very, very modestly. And he's like, why? You're hot. Like, let's do it. And I was like, because I really, 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 really don't want to look attractive. I want to look well put together, but I don't want them to be thinking anything like that. I want them to be thinking, she looks smart. She definitely brushed her hair. She looks professional, and I'm going to listen to her smart ideas. I don't want anyone getting distracted with like an extra inch of skin or anything like that. And he kept saying like, why are you so paranoid? Like, he seemed to imply that I was overreacting, to which the woman turned to him. She's like, how long have you been a woman? And he's like, I've never been a woman. She's like, oh, and how long have you been a woman that works in tech surrounded by dudes? Oh, 100% dudes in every meeting. He's like, 0 times. And she's like, how often have you been sexually harassed? He's like, okay, I get it. I have 0 experience in this area. I'm going to shut up. And she's like, awesome. and it's just like that. He's like, it's just so weird that you have to like worry about that. If some guy can't like listen to the lesson because he like thinks you're really pretty, like that's his problem. I'm like, no, it's my problem, because that person isn't going to learn anything. Right? And I'm trying to impart awesome knowledge, and I don't want them worrying about that. So I tone it down. And yeah, like I suspect that men aren't that concerned about that teach technical classes, that they're like, oh, if I wear this shirt, it's too hot. But I remember going to work one day at one of my offices, and I'd bought a new dress, and it was like a bit tight, and I was like kind of nervous about it. And I walk into the office, and my admin assistant gets up, and she whistles, and then she goes, woo, woo, and then she slaps her bum, and then she like does a big whistle. And I was like, uh-oh. She's like, that is way too sexy for the office. You look amazing.
Oh,
and
no.
all my male, because I was the boss, all my male staff like couldn't meet my eyes all day. It was like really awkward. They're just like, hi, Tanya. And they're like all like looking everywhere. And it wasn't like such a suggestive dress, but they're just used to me being so modest.
Yeah.
And I was just like, okay, yeah, noted, not for work. Got it.
It's unfortunate that you have to, so this is going to come out from left field. I was sexually harassed when I was a grown man. So we went out, I divorced my first wife, and things in the Army, it wasn't the best for her. Like I was always away. And so it wasn't, it was just, the Army is hard on families. So anyways, we get divorced, and we're in Montreal, and this guy out of nowhere, right? I was in the Army. I was like, oh, these guys. And back then, homophobia was a big thing, and it is part of society today. It was not part of society before. So this guy hit on me and would not let go. And at the bar, and I'm like, okay, dude. And at first I was like, it really upset me. It really put me in a different mind. I thought, I'm going to punch the first guy that does that to me. Bullshit. I felt very small. I felt very, emotionally like, oh, this is not the right thing. Why are you doing this? What did I do? I had a very victim mindset of that. So I understand. Now I don't live it every single day because I'm an old man. I'm ugly. But anyways, the point being, I get it. I get how the emotional state that it puts you, and you don't want to live that day in, day out.
I'm pretty assertive after, working in tech for so long. And I was also, so I did folk music for a long time, but I also did punk rock. And if you want to talk about sexism in music is significantly more intense than it is in, I've literally physically thrown men off stages. I have I've kicked people in the butt. I've done all sorts of things. I bit someone once.
Damn.
Yeah.
Did you get your rabies shot after?
No, but I think he regretted grabbing my bum. Yeah, right. So then he got bit. So that's what you get. But I feel like in tech, whenever someone has tried something that's inappropriate, I've been so aggressive as a result.
Assertive.
And they're,
Let's say the word
yeah.
assertive.
No, I mean like swearing and yelling.
Oh,
Like,
okay. That's aggressive. Okay. Yeah.
like if someone like flirts with you or makes an invitation, like that's not
different,
really a
yeah.
problem necessarily. But if you've politely declined, or for instance, if it's your direct manager and they ask you something inappropriate, I'm okay with standing up and being like, get the F out of my office and don't come back till you're ready to apologize. We're
Agreed.
done here.
Yeah.
And so, but I look forward to the day where women don't need to be bulletproof, and like, you know, things like that don't happen in the office. Like it's not a singles party, right? and you probably shouldn't be asking each other on dates or propositioning each other in the office generally. Like if that's a thing that's going to happen, you should spend time with them outside the office. And if they keep spending time with you, then probably they're more likely to accept an invitation. But I think things are changing.
I completely agree. I think, I mean, the other one that was quite funny for me was a few months back. I'm with a marketing team of one of our clients, and they're mostly young, mostly women. There's about 3/4 women and 1/4 men, and definitely under the age of 30. And so we're talking, and she, one of the girls says, we had to do a presentation to these old white guys. They're all 50 years old. And so one of the manager, she looks at me on Zoom and she says, oh, Martin, like she realizes I know that Martin's going to turn 50 this year. And she's like, yeah, they were old and white and crusty. And so I asked her, and I said, hey, hello. And she goes, what? Like,
She's like, you're not crusty.
But that's the point, right? I said, so stop putting a color, a gender, and a race on being closed-minded, because that's the behavior. It's not the individual, it's the behavior. So if you're closed-minded, if you're not flexible, if you're all those things that she was, it's like vice versa. Don't make the pendulum switch completely the opposite side, because you're going to get in trouble the same way. So anyways, we had a good giggle. We had a good laugh. And they said, Martin, you're 40 teen, like you're a teenager at heart, so you're not 15. But anyways, to your point,
40 teen.
I want to bring it back to the skill. What you bring as a specialist is more important than your long hair. It's more important than the color of if you're wearing, I'm Scottish. I wear a dress, I wear a kilt. And so I mean, I've had the opposite too. So people have lifted my kilts for fun. But anyways, let's get back to the initial question was, so you've trained other people. So you've trained other people in devs. What is the biggest difference? So developers, what are they best at to learn? And then secondly, what is the most difficult thing to do to teaching tech? Let's not go to devs. Let's go technical and just non-technical people. So what's the biggest thing, the biggest gift that most technical people have when it comes to training?
Okay. So technical people, but especially software developers, they're awesome to train because they want to build something beautiful and wonderful.
Okay.
So if I'm telling them, okay, so there's this security thing that could happen that's bad, and here's how you can avoid it. They're like, show me how to avoid it. I want my app to be perfect. Like they really strive because they're builders, right?
Yeah.
Like, I think a lot of people don't realize that software developers, it's a trade. It's just a trade where you don't get dirty. So they literally build, fix, create, design all day long. And so imagine, an architect that's building a building. If you could say, oh, I'm going to teach you how to make sure that this doesn't happen and that doesn't, like, these are risks, so I'm going to teach you how to make your building like stronger and tougher and safer. They'd be like, sign me up. So
hell yeah,
it's awesome because software developers, they want to know security. They want their app to delight their customers. That's what they want. And so it's awesome because they're already on board before I get there. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then if I can just make it fun and make it not impossible. Because I've been to some training where I'm just like, so you skipped 27 steps there, buddy. So if you can make it fun and make it kind of interesting and make it applicable to their everyday job, so stuff that they're going to know all the time, they're already excited before you get there. And that's like, yes, as opposed to, I have been to very not fun training before. And or when you think it doesn't really apply to you, like if you're getting, I don't know, like if you're doing a fire drill and it's Ottawa and it's February and you're like, I know how to go down the stairs, buddy. Why are we doing our third fire drill? Like, why are you training me on this? This is boring. I already know this. You're wasting my time. Because I remember working at a place where they did that to us all the time. Every 90 days, fire drill. And to me, it felt like a waste of time. It's actually quite expensive to take 2,000 people and have them not work for 30, 40 minutes.
I agree.
That actually costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. But they pointed to me and they're like, you know what? If we have a fire and someone dies,
that's worth millions and millions.
Yeah, that's worth all this effort, right? And so I feel like technical people, a lot of them know security is important, but it's sort of like a mystery. And so it's like, I'm going to tell you all the secrets today. Sit down, let's do this. Usually they're really interested to learn more. And so that's awesome. As for learning non-technical skills, so one of the things that we teach for application security professionals is one, how to teach adults. So like how to talk to them, because so if you do application security, it's your job to help all the devs do the things. And it's really important that you don't come off as condescending or like a know-it-all, or you don't want to just be walking around the office being like, your baby's ugly, your baby's ugly, your baby's the ugliest of the babies, because no one's going to want to work with you. And so we cover, you know, how to give a presentation so that you're not death by PowerPoint and it's somewhat interesting, and like, you know, what to not worry about and how to feel confident while you're doing it. And we also talk about just like how to break bad news, how to have some empathy for the other side and get that across, and how to build trust and how to get buy-in. Because sometimes you're the application security person, you're a super expert, and you're like, but I need some tools, and the tool costs $100,000 that I want. And so how to get buy-in, or I really need this fix changed. How can I get upper management to agree to this thing that's, you know, going to cost tons and tons of hours, but I feel the risk is really worth it and there's a good return on investment? And how do I show it to executives, or how do I explain it to managers, or how do I explain it to the boots on the ground, like the actual devs or operations people or whatever technologist that needs to actually do the work all the time? And so
there is so much that you've captured in here. I think that the one thing that, well, actually two things. One, fun. What's the definition of fun, right? So a lot of people say, hey, I want to keep my culture fun. Well, what does fun look like? Fun is celebrating wins, right? I hate to lose. I hate to lose. So did I say I hate to lose? Because I hate to lose. I don't mind getting beat, but I hate to lose. If somebody's better than me and they win fair and square and I've cheated every which way and I still lose, good on them. I'm just teasing. But my point being that win after win, when you're coaching kids, you're mentoring adults, you're coaching business leaders and executives, what can they learn and apply immediately, right? That's a win. So I'm going to learn something. I'm going to apply it. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to apply it. When you, like you said, death by PowerPoint, you're inundating me and I'm not seeing the application immediately. Therefore, I can't win. Therefore, this is a waste of time. Get me back to my office. So that is a key component, because I think that when you mentioned it, it's like there's a lot of behavioral based stuff. Then secondly is leading and mentoring. Our job as leaders is to facilitate and elevate. And I think that, especially when you're training, the technical component of facilitating is removing barriers. You know, people say all the time, and I want you to tell me if this is true or not, because I deal with some of our clients are in the gaming industry, real money betting and all that. And the team, the project directors, they tell me all the time, yeah, we're a different breed. We're a different breed. We do things differently, to not say quirky sometimes. And so is that something that you feel is applicable? Is there a different way to treat developers because they are instead of being a black zebra with white stripes, they're a white zebra with black stripes?
I feel that software developers are similar to the rest of technologists, except for, how to explain this? So when I was a software developer, I had some arrogance. I'm not gonna lie. I remember someone saying, well, you should move to security. And I remember saying, I'm the king of IT. I'm the lead software developer. There's no higher spot for me. And that's how I felt about it. I'm like, I make something out of nothing every day. Like, it's amazing.
For those people who are listening and not watching, Tanya just put the hand out and she waved and she's like, okay, all right, I'm the boss.
But it's incredible, right? Like, and software developers, they can do basically anything. Like, whenever a security person says, this is the new rule, you have to do this, software developers are obeying the rule. They don't have to. They could get around it. And they're like, oh, well, we have this precaution. And I'm like, you can't stop. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I remember showing many security teams how I got around every single thing. And so when the mentor reached out to me, like asked me to become my mentor or to become his apprentice, he's like, you are a hacker, Tanya. You've been hacking for years. You don't even realize it. Like, and a lot of software developers don't even necessarily understand how much power they have. But I don't know. I feel like software developers have a lot of competing priorities. Okay. So their manager is telling them, fix these bugs. Their customers saying, build me this cool new feature. The security person saying, make sure you build the feature like this and fix the bugs like that. And also I have more bugs for you. There's the operations person that's like, please stop building new features because you keep destabilizing the platform. And so they have deadlines and all of these other things. And so sometimes I see, so a thing that I really like to do with our training is specifically only training them on the things they need to know to do their job well. There's a lot of, how do I put this without sounding catty? So there's lots of cool training out there that's fun, where they teach you all these cool hacking things. But software developers don't need to know that to do their job well. So you show them this cool thing one day, and then they forget. And I'm like, listen, if I only get to give them 1 day of training every 6 months, I want it to be on what they need to know to do their job. Not, here's this weird exploit that you'll never get to do at work, that you better not do outside of work because it's illegal. It's like, why are we showing them a bunch of stuff? Or I got hired once to design like a big training plan. And they said, so we hired a consultant last year and this is what he built. And it was a 2-day training. He wanted to yank, 4,000 software developers out of work for 2 full days. So imagine how much that costs, right? And a whole day was on encryption and like, what is symmetric versus asymmetric? What's Diffie-Hellman? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, does our company build encryption software? And she said, no, of course we don't. Like, then why are you spending a day teaching them a bunch of crap they don't need to know? Teach them how you implement it where you work and when to implement it. But that's it. They know what encryption is. They're very smart. They're really, really smart, or otherwise they would be your ex-software developer, right? And so, like, don't treat them like they're dumb. Don't waste their time. Give them stuff that helps them be more awesome at what they do best.
I think your analogy of being tradesmen or tradespeople, is very appropriate here. You don't teach an electrician how to be a plumber, right? You have him understand that if you connect water and electricity, that's bad. That's something that they need to know, to say, okay, what kind of piping do you need to put? Do you need PVC? Do you need copper? How do you want to?
Yeah.
There's no need for an electrician to know that. What they
Mm-mm.
need to know is, okay, so I've got a water pump. How does the water pump function to be able to bring power to it so that it pumps the water? What kind of amperage? That's the connectivity, but they don't need to know uh, all of the plumbing functionality. I think that's a great analogy. And you know what?
It's not an analogy. I mean it. They
No,
are a
yeah,
trade.
no,
Like
absolutely.
if you define the trades, think about it. They build things, they fix things, they repair things. Like
Agreed.
that's what they do. It's just they don't get dirty. It's the clean trade.
Yeah. Sorry, my analogy of saying
Oh.
what
Oh yeah,
yeah,
like the
don't
different
teach, yeah,
the
don't teach
different
them. Yeah,
trades.
yeah, yeah. Because I think that that's very applicable to other businesses as well. Like, why are you teaching the marketing team how to close sales? What? There's no need for that.
Yeah.
Why you're teaching the finance team how to, I don't know, color code or do QR codes? There's no
Yeah.
application. There's no need
Yeah.
for it. And again, you're not trying to be facetious or
No.
bossy and saying, well, you don't need to know that. That's not the point. Is this useful? Is this going to
Yeah.
facilitate your work or elevate? I say this all the time because that's the fundamental thought leadership or thoughts that a leader should have is this going to facilitate your work? Am I removing barriers? And am I
Mhm.
elevating you? Am I providing you
Yeah.
tools and knowledge that will elevate you in your craft and as an
Yeah.
individual as well, right? As a human being as well. So,
Yeah, it would be different if it was like career development for them,
mhm,
like teaching them like supervision skills or leadership
mhm.
skills or things like that. But I'm just like, I am a computer scientist who specializes in cybersecurity, and I have to say, I don't care the exact differences between each type of encryption. I want to know what the current acceptable standard is, and then I'm going to do the crap out of it. And that's
Eh,
enough. Yeah, people get
there's
lost in the weeds sometimes.
there's one point that I want to talk about, and it applies to safety and security. And a lot of people tend to forget what is the difference between commitment and compliance, right? So you have an organization, and oftentimes, and I think that is kind of what you were saying in the pre-show, is that people need to understand that you need to be committed to cybersecurity or safety or any of those risk mitigation strategies. If you're committed, you're not you will be compliance to law, right? So by law, I should do this. I need to protect my IP, and I also need to protect people's credit card information and personal information. By law, I have to do that. Well, if you have a compliance mindset, you only do bare minimums. If you have a committed mindset, then the people ingrainedly put that in their job. They go, there's nothing that we do that is not safe and secure. And I think that that's in the pre-show you were saying that, and I said, oh damn, I have to get you to talk about that.
I feel like security is part of culture
Mm-hmm.
or it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And if you do the whole, well, we'll nail it on at the end and there's like this box we need to check, it's going to be painful and it's going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
But if you make it a part of your culture, so so just to talk about my book briefly,
Yes, please.
I I I organized the book in the way that people develop software. So it starts with, so we go over the security fundamentals and I'm like, kind of explaining who Alice and Bob
Mm-hmm.
are and all of that. But then the first like real full chapter is requirements. So I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
build software, and no matter what way you build software, you must have requirements. And it's like, how can we have security requirements from
Mm-hmm.
the very beginning? Like, what if we told devs exactly what we wanted at the beginning instead of the end when we tell them how wrong they did it,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so then when we're designing it, what should we keep in mind? What are some concepts we want to apply? How can we find problems right then before we even start coding? And so it goes through, and then of course there's the coding, the funnest part, and then testing, which is also pretty fun, and deployment, which is also pretty fun. And then there's maintenance. And how can we make sure, as we're going into each one of them, security is from the beginning right until the very end? And if you teach them when people go to school right now and learn to write code, they do hello world. So every single language, the first lesson's hello world. And you print something so the first thing you learn to do is print something to the screen, specifically hello world. And the second thing you learn to do is ask their name and read the input in. And then we put it out to the screen and say, hello, so-and-so. So hello world, what is your name? My name's Martin. And then it's like, hello, Martin. And every single time they teach it, they do not validate the input and they do not encode the output. And so what happens is it's cross-site scripting. It's literally the recipe for cross-site scripting. And that's why it is the most popular high-profile bug on the planet. It's in so many applications and you can do lots of evil stuff with it. And it's because they're literally teaching it from the very first lesson how to do it wrong.
Wow.
And so I'm super passionate about trying to change these things. So we teach them how to do that. And then the next part of that lesson should be, now how do we do this safely? Because not all users are nice. So what if Martin isn't nice? What do we do about that? And teach that lesson. If that was the first lesson, shopping on the internet would be a lot safer.
That's true.
And so it's kind of my dream / goal to change that one bit at a time. So whether it be publishing books, being on podcasts, I just keep giving things away for free all the time because I really want to change the world to be more secure as best I can. And there's a lot of people that feel like I do. There's tons and tons of people. So I have this online community called the SheHacksPurple community. And as of 2 days ago, it's free. So if we used to charge money to help pay for it, but now the rest of the business makes more money, so we don't have to charge. And so if you want
awesome.
to, if you work in software or in security or in technology and want to join a group of like-minded nerds, just go to community.wehackpurple.com. And you have to say why you want to join, because I want to make sure jerks don't join, because the internet has some jerks on it and we want just all the nice nerds. And then you can just join and talk with us and share. There's all these articles. There's this onboarding where we kind of give you a tour. And yeah, I'm trying to make the internet safer. And thanks for having me on your show. I know we're probably way over time at this point.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, a couple of things. One of my very good clients, one of the clients that I brought on board, their number one rule, they always say number one rule, no asshole policy. So they don't work with assholes. Yes. We fired a guy because he was an asshole. He would terrorize the people, and I completely understand. And number two, thank you for saying that and doing that, because I think it's having a just cause. And so is fundamental. Just because you make money doesn't make that you're evil. And that's what kind of 1980s, 1990s. Oh, you're rich, you make money, you're evil, right? And when you go, well, and this is our just cause at Urgio, is if we help people be curious, right? Because our 3 brand promises and core values are ignite curiosity, crystallize thinking, and concentrate action. If people become more curious about each other, about the world that they live in, and they concentrate their action, or they crystallize their thinking, this is what I'm going to do, and this is how I'm going to do it, and they have a prosperous mindset, saying, if we can help businesses not be jerks and become better at being curious at how do I help the world? How do I do this better? Just like you are. I want to make the internet a safer place. Okay, how do you do that? And if I can help, and we as a group can help organizations do that, isn't that a just cause? Isn't that some way to contribute actively to betterment of the world and the planet? So absolutely, good on you. And I don't wish luck. You make your own luck. and you do make your own luck. So I want to close with one thing. Why purple? Because we didn't talk about purple. Because you told me purple is super big, and I'm like super curious. I'm like, what the fuck is purple? And what does it mean to cybersecurity? And so for those who are watching, I've been looking. The tip of our hair is purple, and I think your LinkedIn profile too has you like full on purple as well.
Oh yeah. So when you work in security, if you work in offense, so that means like penetration testing, red teaming.
Team. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You are a red teamer. So
I get it.
Yeah, so red is offensive, and then defenders are blue. And because I do AppSec where I have to do offensive things, but I also do defensive things, people kept teasing me, oh, you're the purple teamer who can't make up her mind, which side she wants to be on. Yeah.
Fucking brilliant. Yeah. Oh.
And then when I went to make my Twitter handle, so my email address was SheHacksComputers. And so I was like, oh, I'll just make it SheHacksComputers. Because it used to be Tanya Plays Guitar, right? So I was like, SheHacksComputers. Okay, yeah. And that was too long by like one letter. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll just put purple. And then people kept teasing me about the purple. And so this guy named Kevin Wall, he would always tease me like, oh, and your hair isn't purple. So I put some streaks in it, knowing he'd be at an event. And I was like, hey, Kevin. And he just dropped laughing. And so then all these people are like, purple girl. And so before I knew it, I was the purple lady, and it just kind of grew from there. And so that's why we're called We Hack Purple, because all of us come together and we defend and we attack when we need to.
And look, I told you, right? It comes full circle. It comes full circle. So the title of the show is Alice and Bob and She Hacks Purple. And full circle. Well done, Tanya. Well done. How do people get a hold of you? Can people, and will you allow people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm SheHacksPurple on basically all the platforms. So Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, on Twitch, on all the places. So Twitch is where you like live stream when you're coding and stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so if you look up SheHacksPurple or go to SheHacksPurple.ca, because I'm Canadian, and so I have all my links there. If you want to know about Alice and Bob and come to some of our events that are all free, go to aliceandboblearn.com. And so all the stuff is there. And if you want to visit my company, which I really hope you do, go to WeHackPurple.com. And we have the academy, the community. We have a podcast named We Hack Purple Podcast. We have just like so many things in store. We have all these little free mini courses. We have things you can download to teach you stuff. Like, we're pretty excited about life there.
Damn. You know what, Tanya? I've had a hard week this week. I've had a hard week. And so for the listeners, this is Friday afternoon and it's summertime and it's hot you've invigorated me, Tanya. So thank you so very much for bringing so much energy to the show. It's been, I think we can go for another hour, an hour and a half, because I got a gajillion other questions and you just keep answering them. But for our benefit and the benefit of the listeners, I think we're going to do a part 2 that I think I want to learn more. So thank you very much for being on the show. It's an absolute pleasure and treasure to have you.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much to the awesome humans at Cobalt Security who introduced us.
That's
Michael
right.
And Keith.
That's right. When we first started, I was like, Tanya, how do we know each other again? Fabulous. With that said, thank you very much for listening, folks. Please like, subscribe, click the bell for the YouTube ones, and whatever my marketing team asks you to do when we post it out live. So Thank you very much. I'm your host, Martin Hunter, from What CEOs Talk About, where we translate strategy into frontline operations. Thank you, Tanya.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to What CEOs Talk About. Make sure to click subscribe to get notified about future episodes, or check us out at www.whatceostalkabout.com.